What's up, YouTube? Off-road garage here. In my shop, working on, I was working on my brother's 1996 ZJ Grand Cherokee. And we did a lot of work to it over the last few months. So, we changed the motor out because it supposedly had a bad motor, and we were just told it had a bad motor, good transmission, and we had Jeep out there that you can't see, green one, 96, given to us free, and we decided to take the motor out of that one, the good 5.2, drop her in this one, and it plug and play went straight in, no problem, relatively. Because the green Jeep had a bad tranny, and bad front axle, and it was missing a lot of parts. And so we said, screw it, just put the motor in this one, buy this one for $200. So my brother bought it for $200 from a friend that gave the transfer case out of it to us for my uncle's rig, and ended up wanting to sell it, sell this to us, or just to sell it. And we got that parts Jeep from my uncle, the green one, and so my uncle got that transfer case for a different Jeep that he owns that's now on our property. That might show up in a video that I fixed for him, so I'll fix a little bit of it. Long story, but we parted out the one that he gave us and put the motor and a few other odds and end parts in this. But that one didn't have it did have a transfer case, but my brother took it apart thinking that that's why the transmission, that one, the bad one, went out. Well, he thought the transfer case went out. So we were just slapping this together, waiting for the transfer case from him to be put back together. And he finally gave us one that was in my other brother's Jeep, ZJ. And he gave it to us today, and we put it in, and we finally got it, where it was drivable. And so, obviously, we never drove it because it's back in the garage and never really left. But here's what happened. You can probably tell the mismatch rims. Those, 3 of those, 1 of those from the parts Jeep. But off topic. But here's what happened. We got the transfer case put in and got a few other things buttoned up. Put some water in it, filled up the transmission, filled up the transfer case, filled up everything. Everything's topped off on fluid, and we're ready to rock and roll, right? About 2-3 hours ago, we fire it up. Oh, might I say, open header, or exhaust manifolds, dumped into the pipe. This side goes down, around, straight, and that side just goes down into it, and it wires off into one. Yeah, right after it wires off, it's cut behind the cat because we did the motor flop on it. And so, loud as crap. Sounds cool, but we gotta fix it so that we can actually run it without damaging the motor and making it where we can't put an exhaust system on it later. And we got a Flowmaster laying around that from the parts Jeep, so it had just a normal stock one on it. But anyway, we're gonna put a Flowmaster on it, have a friend come weld it, and so we're all ready to rock and roll except the exhaust. But we're just gonna drive it out so that we can pull my dad's YJ in before it rained, because it's open top. And we fire it up. It's all ready to go. We stick her in reverse. Nothing. We think maybe the transfer case is in neutral because the linkage is all screwed up on it. So I go down there and manually shift it from 4 low to 4 high and keep on shifting it back and forth, and it's not shifting. Or it is shifting, but the transmission's just like not moving. So we thought maybe it's because we weren't running a front drive shaft. All the power's going to the front. So I hooked. Now it has all the drive shafts, everything hooked up. And we fire it up, stick it in reverse, rev it, try to get it to even move, and it just sits there and doesn't do nothing. But it smokes right in here. Ooh, it's so warm. It's a few hours ago. Or about an hour ago. But it smoked. 1 second, let me pop the hood and I'll show you where it smokes. I think it's burning the torque converter out of it. Or maybe my brother poured some transmission fluid, some tranny fluid on it on accident. Sorry, I got a stuffed up nose a little bit. But it just smokes all out here around the back half of the motor. Tranny's full. And yes, I did check it when it was running. And I even warmed it up and then checked it. And nothing. It just sat there, just smoke, a little bit of smoke coming out of here. And it finally built up and was like really smoking, but not like bad. But just kind of, you know, a weird amount of smoke that you wouldn't want to see, but yeah, so it just sat there running, revving, not moving at all. So I don't know what's wrong with it. It's either the torque converter or the transmission. There's 1,000 things that could be wrong with it. We contacted the guy that used to own it, because he was an old friend of ours. And he said, well, I switched the torque converter out to the other tranny that was in the back of this, because he said the tranny went out and he replaced it with the one that's in it. But then the motor went out and he said, screw this project. And then he decided to part it a little bit by getting rid of that transfer case to us. And then we bought it from him for $200. So it was a pretty good deal. Limited slip, factory limited slip in the rear with the factory sunroof. So it's a cool Jeep. It won't move. The motor runs strong. It ran strong in the parts Jeep. But I just can't find out why it won't move. So if you guys got any suggestions, maybe change the torque converter or change out the see if the one, he said the one that was in the back of it was junk, but it had a good torque converter on it. So maybe change out the torque converter to that one, but he says he can't remember which one's the new one because he pulled it so many times. Which makes me question, why did you have to pull it so many times? So just leave it down there in the comments. I'll like to hear from you guys. And yes, we did put ATF plus 4 in the transmission. And all the right fluids and everything. And it still sits there and just not moving. So maybe change the torque converter or change something out. And I put an extra quart in it thinking the dipstick wasn't reading right. And I just poured it straight back out. So I hope it didn't pour more than quart out. But yeah, like I said, leave it in the comments. We really need this thing out of the garage for the YJ parking. Plus there's a Rubicon over there that needs a new engine, which I might do a video on if you guys want to see that. And so I just don't know what's wrong with it. We did everything like was supposed to be done. And it's not moving. It might be a sensor telling it not to actually move. Could be the torque converter's just sitting there slipping. The transmission could be sitting there slipping. He could have put the wrong tranny in it. And then we thought that tranny was good, or I don't know. I don't know. It's a pain. So, yeah. just leave it down in the comments what you think might be wrong with it, and we'll try fixing it like that. Sorry I couldn't have made a video on doing the motor flop and everything. It was kind of a headache the whole way through, and my brother wanted the video for his channel, which then he never actually gathered video on, so it was just lost out footage that I could have had. But, you know, if I would have recorded it, you know, he would have wanted it for his channel. So, I was like, whatever. And I just figured, just get it done. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Or night, or whatever day you're watching this at. So, have a great one, I guess. See you next time on Off-Road Garage.